Наш следующий спикер из панели «За». Министр финансов Великобритании в правительстве Маргарет Thatcher, лорд Лоусон. Прошу.
Good afternoon. It's very good indeed to be here. This is a country with a great history and a country, I believe, with great prospects. But it is certainly going through a very difficult time indeed at the moment. And the question is the question before us. I come to talk about that question, about the implementation of tax reform, whether it should be done now or started now or whether it should be deferred, not as somebody who is in any way, although this is not my first visit, in any way an expert on Ukraine. I'm not, and I don't pretend to be. But I am somebody who has, in my own country, devised, implemented, carried through a thoroughgoing process of tax reform, really very far-reaching in the United Kingdom. And when the Thatcher government, which I was a part, came into office 30 years ago, that was a time of crisis. It may not be as grave a crisis as we have at the present time, but it was certainly perceived to be by the people. It was thought to be a great crisis. The United Kingdom was known as the sick man of Europe. We had inflation in double figures and rising. We had a massive budgetary deficit, which was also rising. And we had, as a result of trade union militancy, people like Bill there, I don't say Bill himself, but people like Bill, intellectual journalists and writers, were saying that the country had become ungovernable. That was the state of affairs when we came in then. And on top of that, within weeks of our coming in, the Iran-Iraq war broke out, and that led to a huge leap in the price of oil, which dislocated the world economy. And so everybody said, well, look, you've got these radical plans. You say you've got these radical plans, but you must not. You must wait, implement them. You must wait until conditions are better. We took no notice of that. We went ahead. We went ahead with trade union reform. We went ahead with trying to conquer inflation, which we eventually did successfully. And we went ahead with deregulation, and we went ahead in particular with tax reform. And that tax reform was strategically thought out. It was based on clear principles, and the result was a satisfactory one. We moved to an economy with lower rates of tax. But despite the lower rates of tax, we were getting increased revenues. So that was not a bad thing. We also, it contributed to a great rediscovery of dynamism in what had been really a very poorly performing and sluggish UK economy. So that is why I reach the conclusions that I do now, and why I hope you will support this motion. And we've had a good debate so far. There's no such thing, of course, as a good tax. Tax is a necessary evil. It is necessary for obvious reasons, and the art is to make the evil as little as it can be. So what needs to be done? A great deal, but I do accept those who say you can't do everything at once. I know the American Chamber of Commerce has got a 12-page document of tax reforms, the American Chamber of Commerce in the Ukraine, that it thinks the Ukraine should do. You can't do that all at once. The important thing is to make a start now. And if you make a start now, then people will become, their expectations will be favorably changed. They will believe that you really are serious. You really do want to put your house in order. If you just have plans and don't make a start in it at all, people will be cynical and skeptical, and they will not believe that you will do it. And the principles are clear: simplification, to avoid economic distortions, to reduce compliance costs, and indeed to reduce the scope for corruption. Lower rates of tax, but taxes which are actually paid, because to have two parallel economies, a grey or black economy where they are not paid and a conventional economy where they are, is not only wrong but economically inefficient. And of course to have a tax system which has certainty, so businessmen know where they stand. The world is full of uncertainties. You don't want to inject an extra one through the tax system. So by the questions there of avoidance, evasion, leading to lower yields, corruption, they're not just moral issues. They carry a heavy economic cost, which at this time of all times you cannot sensibly afford. In a sense, an unreformed tax system is the worst form of tax because it is putting an additional burden over and above the tax itself. If you want businessmen to attend to making their companies as efficient as they possibly can, then you want them to be devoted to that, not devoted to how they can get favors out of government or how they can minimize their tax bill. You want them to concentrate on making their own companies more efficient. Also, this will encourage inward investment, which can bring great benefits to the Ukraine. Overseas investors at the moment are concerned about conditions here, not because of the world crisis is everywhere, but because of the tax uncertainties and problems in the Ukraine. We want to get over that. The importance of expectations is considerable. The idea that you can get anywhere by fine-tuning, that is futile. If you try and fine-tune, as many governments do, and I think the Ukrainian government does now, as the United Kingdom did in the bad old days, you just get unintended consequences, and you don't achieve your objectives very much, but you do achieve things which you don't want. The business of government, anyhow, is not the government of business. You want businessmen to conduct businesses in a tax system which raises the money you need in the most neutral way, as Bill Emmett said. I know that he said that it has been said that politically now is not the time. People will always say it's not. In fact, at a time of crisis, the people understand that difficult things have to be done. That's what we found in the United Kingdom, and I think that is true of people generally throughout the world. If you want to wait till there's a perfect government in your country, you may have to wait a very long time indeed, and it'll never happen. And I say in conclusion that it's not a question of whether you can afford to do it. You can't afford not to do it. Crisis creates an opportunity. You must seize it. Thank you.